everybody, and welcome back to my channel. It has been a minute. I don't even remember how to do this anymore. Welcome back. It's been a minute. I would try to explain why, but I have no reason. You know, with everything going on in the world, I'm home from school. Senior year has changed a lot for both of us. And we're just kind of trying to make it work. School is just about almost over though, and we're just trying to figure out what the next steps are. But while we're doing that, why not binge watch 22 movies? So when Ben and I met, he was disturbed to know that I was not into superhero movies. No, go ahead.
I was disturbed to know she had not seen a single Marvel movie.
During quarantine, I have watched all of the Marvel movies and have now become so obsessed that I have made my family from the beginning and watching them in release order, not chronological order, making all of my family watch them as well. And my family and I just started phase 2. So we thought it would be kind of fun to go through and see, after I've watched asterisk all of the Marvel movies, phases 1 through 3, having us go through and seeing from our favorite to least favorite how many we have in common or are like kind of in the same realm. The asterisk is there because I do want to say, while we were going through it, and if you have an issue, Ben told me this was not my decision. There were 4 movies we skipped because they could either be, you know, summarized in a YouTube video and they weren't really worth spending the 2 hours watching in his personal opinion, or they just weren't super good or relevant. Like the relevant one is more The Incredible Hulk. It's not the same actor. So we missed The Incredible Hulk, Captain Marvel, Thor 2, Dark World, and
Ant-Man and the Wasp.
So
I do want to see Captain Marvel and Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yes.
But I definitely don't care about the other 2.
Right now I want to focus on the ones that are important to the story, and I really just wanted to see Endgame. This all started based on a fight where I said, we were trying to decide a movie for a night, and I said we should watch Endgame, and he said, no!
What?
You do not understand! So here it is, me and Ben from bottom to top, our favorite Marvel movies. Coming in at the bottom, and each are gonna have an explanation, but it's very short.
My bottom is Avengers Age of Ultron.
Ooh, wait, so is mine! That's funny. Okay.
It's bloated, it's too long. There are cool moments. Hulkbuster, amazing. It didn't need to be as long and convoluted as it was.
When you take the first Avengers, and then you take like Infinity War, or no, I guess Civil War would have technically been the next where they're all together. The second one just doesn't do anything for me. So then my next one up was Iron Man 2. I don't know, it just doesn't do it for me. It's kind of the same thing. When you take Iron Man 1 and 3 and you take Tony Stark as a character, 2 just feels very out of place. Like, you know, he kind of becomes like more of a than you can even root for, and the fight he gets in with Sam, it feels out of place for me.
So in slot 18, she has Iron Man 2, I have Thor 1. So Thor 1, it's a good start, but it's very, to me, it's comic book Thor versus MCU Thor. They didn't really know how to write him yet. So it was a fine movie, a lot of fun scenes, but you know, the villain, I mean Loki was kind of the villain, but isn't he always? But like the Destroyer was kind of lame, and the premise was okay. So it's fine, I would watch it again, but I don't really need to.
So then moving up for me at number 17 is Ant-Man.
And I have Ant-Man as well.
I think it's kind of cute. I won't be yours. Okay.
Disgusting.
Ant-Man's good. Like, it's a good movie. It's comical. I think Scott Lang as a character is good. I like his development. I also like where he comes in later with, you know, how he fixes Infinity War and Endgame. I think they do a great job. It's just very like, this is one I would watch again. It's not one I actively dislike, but it's just, in comparison to all the other ones, it's just very meh for me.
Yeah, the villain is really forgettable. I really like Scott. I like his background. I like his family. It has one of the funniest scenes with his partner doing the whole telephone of how they got the gig to break into the house. Great moments, but again, just overall pretty average.
So then going up, and this is where I think you're gonna have an issue. My 16 is Avengers.
Avengers 1.
Yeah.
At the time and looking back, it would be lower on my list, but whenever I saw it, because I saw it closer to when it came out,
yeah.
it was a lot more important.
Well, and I have to say, it might have been higher on my list, but my parents and I just watched it the other night with my sisters, and it was a lot slower than I remembered it being. Like, just the start, I understand it takes a while to bring them all together, but it was very slow.
And mine is Iron Man 2. So, same thing that I said before.
Yeah, and mine's the next, going up to number 15 for me. I have Thor 1, which Ben has already said, and basically for the same reasons. It's important, like it's an important movie because it's his self-discovery in the beginning of his arc and blah, blah, blah. And I really like Jane as a character, and I think all of the side characters are great, but again, it was more of it served a purpose more than it was one of the better movies.
So mine is Iron Man 3, which I think you're going to have a big problem with. I do actually like Iron Man 3. And I don't even dislike it for the reasons that most people would, the comic book people who are like, oh, they ruined the Mandarin. I think it's cool to take it a different way. And, the MCU is not the comics. So, like, you got to make that distinction. It doesn't matter if they, did a 180 on you with the character. Like, I think it's a cool flip that they did. And I feel like a lot of these movies stuck with me. Like, even Thor 1, I remembered basically all the plot lines. But there were some things about Iron Man 3 that just kind of fell by the wayside and didn't seem that important. Still, I did really enjoy it, and you gotta love the ending fight scene with the Iron Legion and getting to actually go through some of the 50 mark suits. Really fun fight scene.
What did you say?
He said Sean might break up with me after this.
You're assuming Sean watches my YouTube videos.
I bet Luna will make him.
So my next one is going to cause some real issues with you more than anyone else. My next one is Infinity War. And here's the thing. I know this is wrong, and I know I'm letting my emotions take the best of me, but this movie just made me sad. Like, I know the plot is good, the villain is good, the story is good. Maybe it should be higher. The villain is
great.
Well, it's the best villain in the series. Like, that's the point. But it just made me sad, and like, I'm going into this with full emotional appeal and how the movies left me feeling about them. I'm going to re-watch a lot of the ones I'll say next over watching Infinity War, because you don't leave it really feeling great.
Which is the point.
I understand it's the point, but I'm basing these based on my favorite, and I don't like feeling sad after a movie.
Next is Captain America 2 Winter Soldier. Again, people are going to be very upset with this. I just didn't like Captain America's storyline as much as everyone else did. I thought this was a really good movie. It wasn't as intriguing to me. It's 10. It's still one of the best movies in the MCU, but there you go.
Next for me is Spider-Man Homecoming at number 9. I just adore Tom Holland. I think everyone's right, and like, no shade to the other Spider-Mans, but he truly has been like the best Spider-Man. It's finally someone who looks like Spider-Man should look, and he has the awkward teen angst down to a science, and it's a great movie. I love watching him interact with Tony Stark's.
And he doesn't shoot webs out of his skin like a maniac. My next one, I'm now in my A tier. So
I want them to make Zendaya a hero. Continue.
But my next one is Avengers 1. It is incredible. It is A tier, and especially for its time, it was incredible, but it has been overshadowed by some of the later MCU movies.
My next one is Thor Ragnarok. That one is where just like, some people have different opinions on Marvel movies being funny, but I only really enjoyed watching like the Deadpool. That's what kind of got me willing to watch them, was the fact that they can be funny, because the ones where they just take themselves too seriously and they're wearing spandex costumes is just like a lot for me. So I feel like they need to know how to make fun of themselves, and watching Thor have a meltdown about getting a haircut, and I forget his name, but the big rock guy who kind of lives in the like fighting arena, it just like, this is kind of when I think Marvel started being able to laugh at themselves a little bit, and so that's why it's my favorite Thor movie.
So in my slot for this, I have Captain America 1. I think the story by itself is just so strong. Outside of the MCU, it is just a good war movie. It is a good, heartfelt story. Yeah, I think it's a great start for Steve Rogers' whole narrative.
So coming in at number 7 for me is Spider-Man Far From Home. I like Far From Home more than Homecoming. After Tony is gone, watching Happy kind of become, partnered up with Spider-Man, and when he goes in to make the suit and it's this emotional moment, I just think it's a lot of growth for him. I really like Mysterio as a villain. I think, I haven't seen this in a minute, so I will say, like, I should watch it again. But the, like, I remember there being, like, a lot of confusion. Like, you either didn't know if he was good or bad, or, like, there was just a lot going on. And I think, like, the plot twists, like, back and forth, where it wasn't, like, a set who's the villain, who's the good guys, was, like, fun. So I liked that one.
In my slot, I have Doctor Strange. I thought Doctor Strange was incredible for how Marvel just kind of went off the...
You didn't put Black Panther anywhere.
Oh my god, you're right. I can't believe I didn't. Well, luckily for me, it would be in the A tier, because Black Panther was also a great movie. Doctor Strange, great movie. They really got to play around with some of the more psychedelic aspects and really got to stretch their, you know, this is a serious movie, but, you know, we're still going to have, you know, time travel for the first time in the MCU, which was wild. It kind of turned a complete of a character into pretty redeemable by the end, so thought that was a really good storyline for him.
My next is Black Panther. Part of me wants to put this higher now.
Hey,
I love that movie.
I'm going to join you. My next one is Black Panther as well, so and it's number 6. It's number 6.
Yes, that was one of my favorite movies I've ever seen.
It was historically accurate, it was culturally accurate. The music was just
amazing. The cast was incredible, and just everything about that movie. I can't even like talk about it and make sense, because it was beautiful. Like, it was a movie that I'm really glad Marvel did correctly. It was just a great movie, like 10 out of 10. That's it.
Yeah,
if you've got anything to add.
It's hard for me to put it not in the top 5. It is number 6, but my main thing is just I was not really engaged by the storyline. I thought the villain was great, but some of the actions taken, especially by the Black Panther's father whenever he killed the spy, it didn't make sense to me, and a lot of things, a couple plot holes that I really didn't like.
So my next at number 5, so we're down to the top 5. I know this is getting long, I promise we'll try to speed it up. Guardians of the Galaxy 2, I kind of touched on it earlier when I talked about Guardians 1. I just truly loved everything about this movie. I think, you know, it was kind of like story 1, Star-Lord has an issue with his mom, 2, he has an issue with his dad. I think that one becomes a little bit more all-encompassing and resolved by the end, is you learn more and you figure out more, and then, you know,
the character development is really good.
And Baby Groot is just incredible.
I was about to say, we can only say one thing about it. I am Groot. Mine would be Spider-Man Homecoming. So number 5, great film. Really did Spider-Man correctly. I think the adaptation, I believe it's of Spider-Man 30 or 33, him breaking out from underneath the rocks is just, they adapted that very well and just really nailed him as a character. Well, then my number 5 would actually be Guardians of the Galaxy 1. This is whenever they first really, the MCU, you know, went out into space and got to do a fun space odyssey. So I just really think without this movie, they wouldn't have, like, this had to walk so Endgame could run. Gotta love Peter Quill.
My next is Doctor Strange, for a lot of the reasons Ben said it. It just stuck with me for some reason. I don't know why some movies just hit you, but I really like how they chose a woman to be the elder, if that's the right term. I think that was a really cool move.
The ancient one.
A really cool move for them to make. That one had some humor. I've decided I kind of like the movies where the heroes start out as like unredeemable and you watch them get better throughout. Those have become my favorite. I just think it's a great story from beginning to end. I think the villain's really interesting. The only issue I have is I still don't really understand how like the time stone works and how you can just like kind of hit the Uno reverse button and like the world was destroyed at the end and like there's no hope for anything, and then suddenly just yeet it back and then everything's like kind of fine.
I've come to bargain. I have Iron Man 1 in my 4 slot. It started the MCU. Without it, nothing would exist. Robert Downey Jr. is the only man who can play Iron Man, and completely carried Phase 1, and he didn't carry Phase 2, but
carried Phase 3.
He carried carried Infinity War and Endgame. When the iron is struck at the end of Endgame, like, oh, every time.
So my next one at number 3 is Iron Man 1. I adore Tony Stark. I think the beginning of his story, opposite of what I've said for this whole video, watching the start of who he is just like awesome. I like watching his origin story and where he comes from. I think he has a really interesting character arc in the first half. I love his relationship with Pepper.
Okay, Thor 3 Ragnarok. You already talked about it, and I'll just gloss over it. It's funny, it is heartfelt, and it, does a lot for Thor.
My number 2 is Captain America Civil War. I like Civil War a lot because while I have a lot of issues with it, I would rewatch it a lot of times. I think that one has very good rewatchability because it's just like every time you watch it, I've noticed different things. It's a very dense movie, and it's the first time where like a lot of them come together, because that's when like I believe Black Panther, Scarlet Witch, Vision, that's when like you kind of finally see the whole dynamic of all of them. I will say a lot of the plot I have issues with, but it's one of the ones I could rewatch the most and enjoy the most.
Mine is Endgame for number 2. Again, it is too long, and that's basically the only reason why it is at number 2. I thought the fan service was so well done. The final fight was one of my favorite, and I will rewatch it so many times. And the humor is either hit or miss, but when it hits, it's great, and when it misses, it's Hulk dabbing.
So then, along that same line, my number 1 is Endgame, and I feel like that's such a basic answer, and I'm sorry, but like, that movie just has a lot of the key points for me. And I've never put a movie as number 1 where like the 3 main characters kind of disappear. Black Widow dies, who is just everyone I want to be in life and more. Like, this movie should make me a lot more sad than it does, but when you get to the end, it just kind of feels like what needed to happen, like to save the universe, and like
it feels whole at the end.
Yes, it does. And you see the moment with Happy and his daughter and the funeral and everyone showing up, and you see Sam become the next Captain America, and just like a lot happens to set you up for a continuation of the Marvel universe that is different but still good.
And that leaves me to my number 1 of Infinity War. I think it is the perfect Marvel movie. It has the crossover with all the things. It has the humor. The humor very rarely doesn't land, and it's Thanos' movie. I mean, they have a great villain, which is honestly one of the weaker parts of most of the MCU movies, is usually a weak villain, but they have the perfect villain for this. Without Infinity War, Endgame wouldn't have been as special.
All right, so that is our list. You're gonna have some issues with what we say. That's fine. Hate us down below. I know I've been gone for a while. I want to get back to start posting weekly. I'm gonna really put an effort into actually doing that. Hope you're all doing well. I hope you're staying safe, but take care of yourself. Be safe. Do things that make you happy. Thank you guys for watching. I know this was a long one. There'll be another one coming soon. Any final words?
I am
Iron Man.